She knocked on our apartment door at 11 p.m., rain in her hair, a paper bag of cider in her hand, and for the first time, my best friend's mom didn't look like someone's mother at all. When she stepped into our tiny kitchen, put her hand over mine and whispered, "I don't want to be the adult tonight." Hey there, I'm Wyatt. I'm 24, and I share a cramped two-bedroom apartment right on the edge of downtown with my best buddy, Landon. We've been splitting the rent and the takeout tabs for a few years now, just riding out the chaos of our 20s. I freelance as a graphic designer for a startup cranking out fitness apps. Nothing flashy, but it keeps the lights on. Landon's a marketing assistant, always hustling, always hyping his next big break. Life with him is straightforward. We dive into video games, argue over who polished off the last slice of pizza, and steer clear of the heavy stuff. It's a comforting rhythm, even if it weighs on me sometimes those late nights staring at my screen, wondering if this is all life has in store. Landon's out of town right now, off at some work conference. The place feels weirdly hollow without him. No blaring music, no plates stacked in the sink. I don't mind though. I've got the TV all to myself, binging a thriller series that's got me hooked. The apartment's nothing special. Mismatched furniture, a coffee table I salvaged from the curb, and a few half-dead plants that Landon insists on nursing back to life. His mom, Miss Harlan, swings by now and then to water them or tidy up his old room, which is basically a storage closet these days. She's in her mid-40s, lives in a spotless house in the suburbs about 20 minutes away, and she's got this knack for bringing order to everything around her. I've run into her a handful of times. She's not like the moms I know. Sharp, poised, the kind of woman who walks into a room and owns it without trying. Always dressed like she's heading to a power meeting. Fitted blouses, crisp jeans, hair pulled back just so. Her voice is steady but commanding, and she's got a quick wit that catches you off guard. The first time we met, I was scarfing down cereal in my pajamas. She arched an eyebrow and said, "I hope you're keeping Landon from living on instant noodles alone." I laughed, stammered something dumb, and felt like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Since then, it's just been polite hellos, maybe a quick chat about the weather or Landon's latest antics. She's friendly enough, but keeps her distance like she's got everything locked down and doesn't need to let anyone too close. Still, there was this one moment that stuck with me. She dropped by to unload some of Landon's old stuff books, a jacket, and caught me staring a beat too long while she sorted through the boxes. I wasn't thinking anything shady. She just has this presence, you know. She looked up, flashed a knowing smile, and said, "Guys, your age are always so distracted." It wasn't flirty, but it threw me. My face went hot. I pretended to check my phone, telling myself it was nothing. She's Landon's mom, for crying out loud. You don't think about your best friend's mom that way. But that moment lingered, like a chord that won't fade. That night was ordinary enough. Rain pattered softly against the windows, and I was sprawled on the couch, half watching my show, half scrolling my phone. Landon wasn't around. The apartment was quiet, and I figured I'd crash soon. Then came the knock. Soft, but clear, cutting through the rain's murmur. I paused the TV frozen on some shadowy scene and glanced at the clock. Who the hell knocks this late? My first thought, an annoyed neighbor. Or maybe Landon, forgetting his keys and coming back early. I hauled myself off the couch in my sweats and faded tee, shuffled to the door. Outside, the rain picked up, a steady drizzle drumming the panes like it wanted in. I flicked on the porch light and swung the door open, bracing for anything but her. There stood Miss Harlan. Her raincoat glistened faintly in the dim glow, hair damp and clinging to her neck. No makeup, just her bare face, open and unguarded, a paper bag clutched in one hand. She looked different, stripped of that polished edge I knew. Her eyes were tired, a little lost, but something raw flickered in them, something real that hit me square in the chest. I blinked, caught off guard. "Miss Harlan, everything okay?" She managed a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I was heading home," she said, her voice softer than usual, but I realized no one was waiting up, so I swung by. It sounded casual, like a friendly pop-in, but her gaze held mine a second too long. And it wasn't casual at all. My mouth went dry. I didn't know what to say, so I just stepped aside. Come in. It's pouring out there," She hesitated, then crossed the threshold, her arm brushing mine as she passed. Her coat dripped a little on the floor, and I caught a whiff of her scent mixed with fresh rain. It was disorienting, like she'd brought the storm inside with her. I shut the door. Suddenly, the apartment felt tiny, just the two of us. "Let me grab your coat," I offered, to fill the quiet. She shrugged it off, revealing a simple sweater and jeans. Not her usual polish, but still elegant. I hung it by the door, buying time. She set the bag on the coffee table and pulled out 2 small bottles of cider. "It's my go-to," she said, her tone light but probing. "Sweet, no fuss." She handed me one, her fingers grazing mine for a split second. I flinched, not because it was intentional, but because it was her. Landon's mom, cider in hand in my living room, this late. "Thanks," I muttered, twisting off the cap. I nodded toward the couch, and we sat careful distance, her on one end, me on the other. The TV stayed paused, casting a blue glow over the room with just a lone lamp in the corner. Rain drummed steadily outside. I took a sip, the cider was cool and faintly sweet, and tried to act normal. "So, you just felt like dropping by?" I asked, cringing at how lame it sounded. She laughed, low and quiet, leaning back with her bottle in hand. "Something like that." Her eyes flicked to the TV, then back to me. "I didn't want to be alone tonight, and I remembered you were here." The words hung simple but heavy. I nodded, not sure what she really meant, not sure I wanted to know. "Landon's not back till midweek," I said, like she didn't know. "Just me and the plants." She smiled, softer now, and sipped her drink. "Good. Those plants need someone looking after them." It was a joke, easing us onto safer ground. For a beat, we were just 2 people sharing a drink, not a 24-year-old guy and his best friend's mom in a quiet apartment. But the air felt thick, like the rain outside was pressing in, waiting for something to give. The cider was cool against my lips, but it did little to quiet the nervous buzz in my chest. Miss Harlan sat across from me on the couch, one leg tucked under her, bottle loose in her hands. The TV lingered frozen, its pale light washing the room. But neither of us glanced at it anymore. Rain settled into a steady rhythm outside, a soft drum filling the gaps in our words. We started with small talk safe stuff. How the rain snarled traffic, how my thriller series kept me up too late. She nodded, smiled, asked about the plot like she meant it. It flowed easy, almost normal, but there was an undercurrent, like we were tiptoeing around something neither of us wanted to name. I took another sip, just to keep my hands busy. "So, you weren't in the mood to head home," I said, trying for light. She tilted her head, studying me a moment, then set her bottle down. "Home's quiet," she replied, matter of fact, but waited. Too quiet sometimes. I thought I'd be used to it by now, but tonight? She trailed off, eyes on the window where rain streaked the glass. "Tonight, I just wanted company." I nodded, words failing me. Company was a plain word, but the way she said it carried more. I shifted on the couch, closing the gap between us by inches. Not obvious, but enough to feel the air shift. "Well, I'm not exactly thrilling company," I half-joked. "Just me, a crappy TV, and Landon's dying plants." She laughed again, warm, low, twisting my gut. "You sell yourself short, Wyatt," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "You're here. That's more than most." The words landed harder than they should. Here. I don't know why it felt like praise, but it did. I cleared my throat, dropping my gaze to my bottle to dodge her eyes. "You don't stop by much," I said, steering us back. "I mean, besides for the plants. Landon says you keep his jungle alive?" She smiled, tender now, almost sad. "It's an excuse," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "To check in, to feel like I'm still part of his world, even now that he's grown." That's when the talk turned real. She opened up, not calculated, but like pieces slipped out on their own, unguarded. She told me she'd married young, too sure it would last forever. "I thought that's what you did," she said, fingers tracing her bottle's rim. "Find someone, build a life, make it work." But it didn't. She'd divorced after years of feeling like she was acting a part. Wife, mom, the one holding it all together. "Being a mom," she said, eyes distant, "it's everything, but sometimes It's a way to forget being a woman. You lose sight of who you are outside that. I listened. Really listened. Because I'd never heard her like this. She wasn't the polished Miss Harlan teasing me about Landon's eating habits. She was raw, open like she'd peeled back layers she usually kept hidden. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, hooked on every word. "Do you miss it?" I asked, not even sure what I meant. Being that person, before the roles took over. She looked at me, eyes sharp but kind, like she was seeing me fresh. "All the time," she said, "but it's not gone, just buried. Sometimes I forget I'm still a person, not just someone's mom or someone's ex." Her voice cracked a little, and she laughed it off, taking a quick swig of cider. "God, listen to me. Sounds like I'm in therapy." "No," I said too fast, and her eyes snapped to mine, surprised. "I mean, what you're saying, it's real. I get it. Not completely, but I wanted to." I shared bits of my own life, the stuff I usually kept locked up. How I felt stuck sometimes, just going through the motions. Work, games, sleep, repeat. How I'd had flings here and there, but nothing that pulled me out of autopilot. "It's like I'm waiting for something," I said. "But I don't even know what." She nodded, like she'd been there. "That's the toughest part," she said, waiting without a clue. "But you're young, Wyatt. You've got time to figure it out." Her words were kind, but they carried weight like she was speaking from a place I couldn't yet reach. Rain thickened outside, a low rumble, and the room felt smaller, warmer. She shifted, her knee brushing the couch edge, closer to me. I noticed her fingers picking at the bottle label, a damp strand of hair falling across her cheek. I didn't brush it away, but part of me wanted to. We kept talking, the chat weaving between light and deep. She shared a story from her 20s, a backpacking trip through Europe, wild and free, before life got complicated. I told her about the time Landon and I got stranded at a music festival in the rain, laughing till we couldn't breathe. We stopped mentioning Landon, and it felt on purpose like we were carving out space just for us. The cider was gone, empty bottles on the table, but neither of us suggested calling it quits. Silences stretched between our words, not awkward, but loaded, like the air before a storm breaks. Her eyes lingered on mine, and I felt it. The pull. The line I wasn't supposed to cross. She was Landon's mom, my best friend's mom. But right then, she was just her. The empty bottles sat on the coffee table, labels peeling in the steam. Rain roared outside, sealing us in this warm, tight bubble of an apartment. The talk had slowed, words giving way to heavier silences, more deliberate ones. Miss Harlan was closer now, not much, but enough to feel her warmth, the faint trace of her scent cutting through the rain. I was hyper-aware of everything. Her fingers on the couch. The way her eyes caught the TV's pale glow, still paused on that forgotten thriller. My heart hammered too fast, and I couldn't tell if it was the cider or something else. I stood to clear the bottles needing to move, to snap the building tension like static in the air. "I'll just toss these," I said, voice rougher than I meant. She nodded, rose too, and followed me to the kitchen. The space was tiny, barely room for two between the counter and fridge. I set the bottles in the sink, back to her, focusing on the mundane to cool my head. She was Landon's mom. This couldn't happen, but she was there, so close I could hear her breathing. I turned for a dish towel on the counter, and she was right in front of me, closer than she needed to be. The air thickened, holding its breath. I froze mid-reach, our eyes locking. Hers were steady, intense, no trace of earlier fatigue or reserve. Something raw burned there, knotting my stomach, spiking my pulse. No words. Rain pounded outside, but in here, it was just us, the world narrowing to this beat. She reached out, her fingers brushing mine light, but sure, not a grab, no force, just enough to stop me. My breath hitched, and I dropped my gaze to her hand, then her face. "I don't want to be the grown-up tonight," she whispered, voice low, almost a breath. But each word landed like a stone in still water. Her eyes never left mine, no room for doubt. Not just the words, but their weight, the invitation, the risk. My mind screamed. Landon, the age gap, the line we were dancing on. This was wrong, right? But my body didn't budge, didn't pull away. I was caught, torn between guilt clawing my chest and the draw of her gaze. It was her honesty that hooked me. "You sure?" I asked, voice barely there, half dreading her answer. She tilted her head, a fleeting smile, not playful, but open. "Real." "No," she said, firm despite the truth. "But for the first time, I don't want to be sure." Time stretched. We were inches apart, her hand still on mine, warm, soft. The kitchen felt too small, the rain too loud, my heart deafening. I thought about stepping back, saying something to shatter it, to make everything safe again. But I didn't. I couldn't. Her words echoed. Not wanting to be the grown-up, not wanting to be sure, I saw the years of holding it all together in her eyes. And for a second, I wanted to be the one who let her let go. But I didn't move forward either. No kiss, no touch beyond her hand in mine. It was just that, a long, charged stare, a silent pact, that something had shifted, something irreversible. My throat tightened, thoughts a jumble. Landon's face flashed in my mind, guilt stabbing sharp, but it drowned in the pull of her eyes. I eased back an inch, breaking contact, but the air stayed heavy, the moment unfinished. I started, no clue how to end it. She didn't push, didn't speak, just watched. Her face was unreadable, but not cold. Rain kept falling, and I wondered if we'd crossed a line or just towed it. Rain had stopped by morning, leaving the apartment in a hush that felt too thick. I woke on the couch, neck stiff, a blanket over me I didn't remember grabbing. TV off, bottles gone from the sink, kitchen spotless like the night was a dream. But it wasn't. My heart still raced, replaying that kitchen moment. Her hand on mine, her words. "I don't want to be the grown-up tonight." I sat up, rubbing my eyes, scanning the room. She was gone. Miss Harlan had left. I don't know what I'd half hoped for, finding her brewing coffee, pretending nothing happened. Ridiculous. I checked my phone. No messages, no sign of Landon cutting his trip short, just quiet. Then I spotted it on the coffee table. A small note, folded once. I picked it up, hands shaky. Her handwriting was neat, precise. "Thanks for not making me feel guilty. Breakfast sometime? If you're up for it, but not here." No signature, just a little sketch of a teacup with a smiley. I read it twice, then slipped it into my pocket. Not sure why it felt like a secret worth hiding. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The night looped in my head, her raw voice, her honesty, the way she'd looked at me, like I was more than Landon's sidekick. I thought of Landon, probably knee-deep in his conference, clueless. Guilt twisted in my gut, sharp and heavy. What was I doing, standing that close, letting her take my hand? But then I'd circle back to her words, her openness, the side of her she let me see. It wasn't just attraction, it ran deeper. Something that made me feel alive, like I hadn't in ages. I don't know what's next. The note, the invite, it's open-ended, cautious, like she's leaving the ball in my court. Part of me wants to text her, see if breakfast was for real, but I don't have her number. And even if I did, what would I say? "Hey, thanks for last night. Let's grab pancakes and act like I don't know your son." It made me chuckle, but hollow. I can't tell Landon. Not now. Maybe never. This is ours. A moment no one else owns. I got up, made coffee, tried shaking the fog from my head. The note stayed in my pocket, a quiet nudge of the line we hadn't crossed, but grazed. I thought back to what she'd said about losing yourself, about craving that sense of being a person again. Maybe I needed it too to feel something real, beyond the grind. This isn't some epic love story or forever thing. It's one night that reminded me I'm more than a guy drifting through days. I don't know if I'll see her again. Not like that. But I'll never shake her words, or how they kept me up, wondering who I could be if I stopped playing it safe. In life, we all wear masks. The perfect mom, the dutiful son, the loyal friend that can cut us off from our true selves sometimes. My night with Miss Harlan drove that home. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a doorway to real connections that remind us we're souls hungry for being seen. Picture it. A rainy evening. A poised, strong woman weighed down by her empty house's silence, knocking on a young guy's door, the mom of his best friend. Not for drama, but to share a cider and some truths. She confesses how she forgets who she is, beyond her roles, divorced too soon, devoted mom but alone. And me, this 24-year-old stuck in routine, I listen, I feel, and for the first time, I feel truly seen beyond my friendship with Landon. It's not a forbidden romance. It's a suspended beat where age fades, where raw honesty, "I don't want to be the grown-up tonight," unlocks a universal truth. We all need to let go, to ditch the sure, to truly live again. This charged encounter teaches us that the deepest bonds often spark in the unexpected, when we dare shatter social walls. It calls us to empathy, to listen without judgment, to spot our own hidden fights in someone else's weary eyes. In our rushed, surface-level world, these rare moments make us alive, reminding us that behind every front beats a heart-craving, real presence. And you had a night like that? A revelation that flipped your view of life? Drop your most moving story in the comments below. Hit subscribe for more tales that stir the soul and spark the everyday. Let's dive into the human depths together.